Okay, I don't think we're going to do introductions today. I think by now we know each other. Luandle was encouraging us to kuthi sivuselane, and it's during lunch and tea breaks. Okay, we're just going to do a quick recap of what we did yesterday. But this is how we are going to do the recap. For the next 10 minutes, because we are already late, I'll just ask people to say what they learned yesterday. What did you learn yesterday? In the first part, we looked at frameworks, approaches, and tools for engaging citizens for development. And then after break, we went on to discuss feedback solicitation on the citizens engagement platform. And then in the afternoon, there were discussions on use cases for the Kingdom of Eswatini. So from those 3 sessions, if we can maybe give a summary of what we learned. What I learned, I will share on the platform for the wider audience. Okay. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As if you have already said, we learned about approaches, different level of approaches of citizen engagement for participation, which is there is informing, there is a consultation, collaboration, feedback, citizen-based, monitoring. Yeah, I think that one we learned in the morning.
Thank you very much. Anyone who wants to add on that?
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you. I think yesterday, what we learned, my takeaway from yesterday was the citizen engagement platform and how it can be a useful tool for Africa and more particularly Eswatini in terms of citizen engagement and participation. It's an interactive tool, a platform with a lot of tools where we can even conduct surveys, host events, and also receive feedback in real time. I think it is one tool that we will encourage even the country and our organizations, government agencies to be hosted on the platform. Thank you. I think that could be.
Thank you very much. Siyabonga. The ladies, yesterday beku Women's Day. Asengibone phela.
Good morning. What I remember from yesterday's discussions is the citizen engagement and capacity development, where we were taught about the 3 points where capacity is grown and nurtured. The first being the enabling the environment for capacity, organizational capacity, and individual capacity.
Thank you very much. All these contributions show that people were really engaged yesterday. I see that they are not even looking at notes, they are recalling it from their notes. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. I think for me, after doing the presentation and then just us sitting in groups, I was grateful for all the feedback that came up in terms of how we can be able to improve the platform. So the feedback is noted, and I will basically just sit down and craft a way forward on improving it based on the input that we've received from this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, one last one, a lady.
Good morning, everyone. I a takeaway point for me is that citizen consultation is a two-way informed communication process, and that it encourages participation, ownership, and transparency.
Thank you. So we learned all that yesterday, and for us, I think as government, we have to try to enable all of it to happen. I think we have to change the way we do things as government, but play that facilitation role. You know, if we increase citizen engagement, more people will participate. So at that point, we will play this role as a facilitator, and people will be part of whatever process is going on. And at the end, by owning Nalama policies. So let us quickly move on to today's program, because we're already behind time. Okay, so the first one, there is a presentation by Awood and Nepad on use cases of citizen engagement on good governance. Is it you, Dr. Nimako? Okay, Dr. Nimako will take us through that. Let us give him a round of applause as he comes forward.
Thank you very much. The applause is not for me. So we will listen to some use cases from IDEC. IDEC is one of our partners in implementing this program. So I will ask the representative of IDEC to first introduce yourself, and then probably let's clap for him. So you introduce yourself, and then you tell us what IDEC does, in high level what IDEC does, and then you can give us some use cases and your presentation. Yeah, okay.
So can you just start there?
Yeah, you can put it here. Put it here rather. So I'll give you a
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, what happened? Good morning. How are we all doing? Me, I'm watching. I was telling my colleague that the friends from Eswatini have been bullying us yesterday with their language. So when I get here, I also speak mine. I hope we are all doing well. Okay, so I'm here to just walk you through what IDEC has been doing over the years in terms of, I have to go there, okay. What IDEC has been doing over the years in terms of citizens' engagement.
and I hope we have a very fruitful discussion. So this is the Institute for Democratic Governance. This will be the outline of my presentation. My name is Paul Lawekeni, and I'm a research and programs officer at IDEC. I have a very short presentation, but before we begin, let's look at the outline. I think it will be prudent for you to know who we are as IDEC. And then before we zoom into the cases of citizens engagement, I think it will also be good for you to briefly look at the Ghanaian political context that IDEC operates. Civil societies operate in a context, and it is very important that you understand briefly our context. And then we zoom into the real issue, the cases of citizens engagement, some lessons we've learned, and the conclusion, and then we'll open for discussions. So IDEC is a development and governance solution think tank that was established in the year 2000. And those who know the Ghanaian political history very well, the year 2000 is very historical because that is when we were transitioning from authoritarian rule to democratic dispensation. So IDEC was born in that transition period to aid that particular process. Since then, we've been focusing on policy research, we've been focusing on advocacy, interface capacity building, and I think we have a different name here, but what it actually means is building the capacities of citizens to engage duty bearers, knowledge networking, and etc. Our core mission at IDEC is to generate knowledge and enhance the capacities of citizens to specifically influence public policy in order to consolidate our democracy. Consolidation of democracy is one of the key areas we look at IDEC because I think Dr. Nimaku mentioned it during the opening session. If you look at the sub-region now where Ghana sits, Ghana is the only white flag there. And even at our northern borders, there are some anecdotal news that we are having spillovers, especially in our northern borders. And so Ghana actually hosts the democratic architecture of the sub-region, and that's where IDEC sits. So you could see the heavy burden that IDEC has together with other stakeholders to ensure that our democracy is consolidated. Now, currently, IDEC is the leading CSO that is championing the advocacy for the amendments, the democratization of the local government system, as well as the implementation of some institutional reforms to spur development in the local level of governance. IDEC strongly believes that citizens actually reside in districts. In Ghana, we call them districts. Now, if we put more attention at the center, it affects those living in districts. The CDD survey, I think in 2021, stated a whooping majority, 78% of Ghanaians are saying the local government system is broken. And if where citizens reside is broken, service provision is poor, sanitation is poor. So IDEC is taking that particular burden up currently. And most of the examples I'll be giving will be showing some engagements we've done specifically in terms of democratizing the local government system and implementing some institutional reforms. You may know this already, but those who don't know, the capital city of Ghana is Accra. And then we have 13 official languages. I'm actually presenting this because I think yesterday during the discussion, 13 official languages. And we'll be going into the presentation. In that GIF approach, we operate in around 46 districts. So you could see the burden. You don't have one uniform language. As a civil society engaging citizens, you have 13 official languages that you have to confront with, especially when you're working. We have 8 ethnic groups, sorry. And according to the recent population census, we are around 33 million. Someone told me Eswatini, you're around how many? 2? Oh, this is a very good area to work. This is a very good area to work. And well connected, right? Yeah, you should come to Ghana and see. So 33 million, and then our government system is unitary at the center. Our political party system is multi-party, and this is just for the books, and I hope on no camera, but multi-party means we have more than one political party. But since the birth of the Fourth Republic, those who know Ghana well, we've only had two political parties alternating power, and that is the MPP and the NDC. And as a civil society in the area of democracy, it's so important for us to know this, because they are pretty like the gatekeepers to whatever we do in Ghana. And so if you know how to manage these two political parties well, you have a fruitful line of operation. Now, let's move on to the real issue. IDEC has, over the years, engaged citizens at various levels of government, and with the aim of building the capacities of citizens and in order to influence government policies at both the national and the communal level. So let's first of all let me walk you through the communal level and what we do in terms of citizens engagement. At the community level, IDEC uses the deliberative methodology through the Governance Issues Forum, and herewith I'll be saying the GIF. The deliberative methodology is actually where citizens come together to discuss the real issues that confront their communities. And during the GIF meeting, the questions they ask are what are the real issues and how can they best be resolved? What are the real issues? At the communal level, we have a lot of challenges that affects communities. Some people are interested in the bridges, some people are interested in the roads, some people are interested in the school buildings, some of them are interested in the relationship between the assemblymen, municipal chief executives, and district chief executives. Some of them are interested. So you realize that there's a varied interest, especially when you come to the communal level. And so at the GIF forum, these issues are discussed, and then possible strategies of mitigating these particular issues are solved. Now, how best can they be solved? I think when we get into the presentation, I'm going to give you a breakdown of how IDEC at the community level build the capacity of citizens in terms of framing issues that affects the community. The best framed issue is the one that gets the attention of duty bearers. It's one of the skills we give to our GIFnet members. The GIF approach has been doing so well, even though we've been struggling with fund over the period. We operate in about 46 districts across 14 out of the recently 16 regions of Ghana. So Ghana has 16 regions, but our GIF members are across 46 districts, and we've been doing so well in promoting bottom-up and upward, and as well as mutual democracy in Ghana. Now, when we talk about the GIF, or the GIFnet, which is the Governance Issue Network Forum, where citizens come together, when they meet at a particular platform, this is what they do. There's a sequence of activities. So first of all, we'll participate in identification of issues. And like I mentioned, at the community level, there are a lot of issues that confront community members. So the GIFnet is made up of representation from the community. We have women, youth, teachers, the chiefs, and their language. They all come together, representatives. And then they will participate in something we call the conduction of needs assessment. So these issues are identified. Now, after identifying these issues, you realize that maybe you have a tall list of 10 or 20 issues. After that, we'll help citizens frame and prioritize some of these issues. And framing means identify the specific problem, what is the solutions, what are the trade-offs, and then the advantages and disadvantages of it. After doing this analysis, you realize that some of the issues will climb up to the list. And then everybody is aware that, oh, well, I said the bridge is important, but after this framing discussion, I think that the road is more important. So let's focus there. You are promoting participation at that particular level, and a particular project is not being swallowed or pushed down the throat of community members. Now, after that, like I said, a consensus is reached on the priorities and the available resources on how to approach. Then the last stage at the GIFNet meeting is where policymakers responsible for that particular issue that has been raised is identified and members are selected to approach them. This is what it is done in the 46 districts across the country. Now, let me briefly give you the structure of the GIF approach or the GIFNet. IDEC is the coordinating secretariat of the GIF. Now, we ensure that they provide technical and logistical support to the GIFNet in the various districts. It's a lot of work. Sometimes when you are put on some of these things, your phone never goes off and it is calling all the time. Now, after IDEC, we have focal organizations. What this means is that in a community, we have CBUs, community-based organizations, that are also included in the GIF. So IDEC is not in the district, but responsibility has been given to these community-based organizations in the district to provide oversight responsibility on the activities that the GIFNet will have to do in the district. Now, when we have working groups, this working group, you realize that in the GIF platform, there are some well-educated, well-spoken, well-written individuals who would actually have to approach the duty bearers in the district. So they are the working group. They help in connecting the GIF members to the various duty bearers and where the solutions can be gotten. Then the last one is the GIFNet. And like I've been saying over the period, it is the assembly of the citizens that come together to decide what is best for the community. And in this 46 district, you have municipal chief executives, assemblymen testifying on how effective this GIF approach has been so far. Now, so this is the basic organogram. You see IDEC at the top, and then we have the focal organization, therefore, and then we have the working group or steering, and then the General Assembly. So let's look at some examples. This is a project in 2010, promoting quality education for national development. The problem for this particular project was that people stay in their districts and their assemblies, and they don't even know the government business cycle. When budget is drawn, how the budget is drawn, and who is responsible, so that citizens can know when exactly they can table their issues. And so this project was implemented across the 46 districts to educate GIFNet members on the government business cycle. So you could see one of the gentlemen, the facilitators, with GIFNet members with some demonstrations on when exactly the government business cycle begins, what goes into the preparation of district budgets, and what can be done, and how they can utilize or leverage this particular knowledge to push their issues into the government agenda. Now, there's another use case, which was the Cocoa Life. This was sponsored by Mondelez, and the focus of this particular project or use case of citizens engagement was to mobilize citizens, build their capacity, and provide them skills for collective action. Now, in Ghana, if you want to champion a particular cause, especially in the at the communal level, and you don't form a coalition or a group, you are likely not to be heard. And that is why the GIF approach has been very, very effective over the years, such that citizens come together for collective action. So this Cocoa Life, I think, made a lot of impact in this particular district. I only found one example. This is Salamatu Ibrahim from the BR West. And he joined the GIF, she joined the GIFNet. She was trained with some skills and capacity. The next election year, she contested for the assembly, we call it assembly woman in our place, but the local level political head, sort of. So she led the advocacy for the construction of this bridge. Well, it may not look like a good bridge, but in this particular context, it's so important. So this bridge was broken. That was before, and you could see that she's been able to. And this is one of IDEC guys who went to inspect the particular project. And these are real examples of how, if you engage citizens and provide them with capacity, they will be able to participate in the development of their communities. Now, so over the years, Cocoa Life has led to the building of boreholes, food bridges, chip compounds, nursing quarters for teachers, and etc. Cocoa Life, which is a citizen engagement case, has also helped in strengthening civic participation, social accountability. That was within the year 2014-2015. It has also led to local employment and accountability and resource mobilization. Especially in the Bronga Hafun, there was a particular case where, after the framing of the issues, they got to the district assembly, and the DC was like, you know what, these are real issues. But in Ghana, district assemblies are entitled to the district assembly's common fund. And that is a 5% of what? The national budget. But as I speak to you now, there are some districts who are in arrears for God knows how long. They've not received their fund. So you may frame your issues very well. You may identify the duty bearer responsible for that particular problem. But when you get to them, the honest truth is that there's no resource. And so the GIF have been trained with some capacity to mobilize resources by themselves and see how they can implement some projects within their budget. Now, these are testimonies. In fact, the impact of citizen engagement cases we've done over the years in East Goja. This is a statement from one duty bearer. I want to say DC. The GIFnet knows where to channel their grievances. We use the GIF methodology to get amicable understanding. In Hohoi is in the Volta region of Ghana. The assembly is comfortable with the GIFnet partnership. It is easy to get information from them. And this was a very interesting statement. He was like, they worry us, but it is also what? Positive. We need each other. Now, in Ashama, there's also the same. Our relationship with assembly is interactive. We explore the issues and we make our contributions. In Idra, there are also similar testimonies of the GIF approach that we use, especially at the community level. So this is some engagement we had internally with some traditional leaders and some community youth association on how best we can approach a particular problem, which I can't say because I'm sure we are live on TV. So a problem that the community was confronting. So that is IDEC at the community level. And like I said, at the community level, this is exactly what we do. We use the GIF approach, and there are a lot of cases, but I think time may not permit me. So this is what we do at the community level. We will move on to the national level, which Doc said, the high level. And in as much as IDEC is stronger at the community level, we also have our strengths at the national level. So far, IDEC is the civil society organization that has the strongest convening power at the national level in Ghana. And I will show you the reason why I say this. So let's move on to the national level. So for the national level, we engage citizens. And here at the national level, I want to say citizens, but in the context of NGOs, CSOs, and some other organizations. At the national level, they are not as dispersed as the community level. So they are already mobilized. So what IDEC does at the national level is actually to what? Bring these citizens together to engage in high policy dialogue between development partners, state institutions, and etc. For the high level or the national level, IDEC actually facilitates the collaboration. We don't, I don't want to say maybe sit or guide them like what we do in the communities, because these are citizens mobilized already in their organizations. So here, what IDEC does is that we facilitate and collaborate with them to drum home the essence of what? Collective action. And I'm saying this because the Ghanaian context is a bit political in terms of civil society organizations. There's some sort of competition here and there. And it is important for civil societies to know how to bring themselves together to tackle a particular issue at a particular point in time. And IDEC so far has been doing so well in that particular area. So at the national level, what do? We typically do what? National conferences. We do high-level policy dialogues and stakeholder engagement. I'll go through some of the cases we've done in these particular areas in terms of national conference, high-level policy dialogue. So for national conferences, what IDEX, we look at how we can sustain dialogue to help douse polarization to spur national development. And at the national conferences, what IDEC actually do is that we bring together both, I'm careful of saying it, both ordinary and special Ghanaians. You know, in Ghana, we say the ordinary Ghanaian. So we bring together both ordinary and special Ghanaians together to discuss wider national issues. And where we've been focusing over the years is election security. Now, for example, for national conference, IDEC innovated the Presidential Election Peace Pact project. We started in 2008, and we've sustained it over the period. Well, there's this airy and creepy feeling in Ghana anytime it's getting closer to elections. And it is not comfortable at all because it is high-staked and it's polarized. And so IDEC decided to organize national conferences, and the project was called Presidential Election Peace Pact. What do we do here? Now, we bring key stakeholders in the election value chain together. And I say key stakeholders, including the Electoral Commission, the Ghana Police, the Chief Justice, Ghana Army, political parties, the clergy, and presidential candidates. And what is the focus of this particular case? We implore presidential candidates to help prevent the outbreak of electoral violence and mainly pledge to seek legal redress in cases of electoral disputes. Those who are not from our sub-region may not understand, but in our sub-region, seeking the legal redress during election dispute is very, very important. And so what we do here is that we bring presidential candidates together, and then they sign a pact pledging that as we go into this particular election, if there's any electoral dispute, what I will do is that I will go to court. Now, I don't know how to play this particular video. So this was in 2022. And it is a very difficult process to bring presidential candidates together during elections. But like I said, IDEC has a strong convening power. So these are the president. This is the current president, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, and then His Excellency Bawumia. They signing the Peace Pact at the 2020 presidential election Peace Pact. And IDEC is currently planning to do another one for the upcoming elections in 2024. You may not know, but this has high impact on the election atmosphere and building collaboration between the two competing political parties. Okay, so this for the high-level engagements that we do. There's one that we did. I think I couldn't get the information during the preparation of the slides, so let's quickly skip that one. Now, we also do key stakeholder engagement, and currently, that is what IDEC has been doing over the period. And like I said, IDEC is leading the advocacy for the amendment of some constitutional provisions and the implementation of some institutional reforms to bring development at the local level. And so we've been engaging series of stakeholders in Accra, whilst the GIF people are also in their communities. And these stakeholders include women traditional leaders. We bring chiefs together, the Trade Union Congress. This is a very powerful group. The actors and guilds, student leaders, persons with disabilities. We bring them together to get their buy-in to support the advocacy for the democratization of the local government system. And I've seen some people dozing, and don't worry, I'll be done soon, okay? Yeah. Yeah, this morning they started. Okay, so now, this is one engagement we had with the Ghana Federations of Persons with Disability in Ghana. This is the umbrella body for persons with disability. We met them. We sold the idea to them about the need to develop the local government system. They supported it. So this is the evidence that was done in 2022. This is their president in that particular chair. You can see from the picture. I think I'm the one there on the far right. Now, this is also an engagement we had, key stakeholder engagement we had with the women. And this is specifically the Affirmative Action Coalition. Ghana is actually pushing the Affirmative Action Coalition bill. And the bill is to ensure that we have 30% of women represented in the political sphere of our government. So far, we are not doing well. We have a lot of men in parliament in some government positions. So there's this particular women group. They are pushing the advocacy for the amendment of the Affirmative Action Bill to ensure that we give 30% space to women in parliament and some government position. So we collaborated with them in this particular event. We did the first one, but this is the third one that we are meeting them again to strategize. It's been a very difficult journey. One, because of the patriarchal nature of our society. Two, the other reasons of resource mobilization for women, especially to contest elections in Ghana. So the bill has been in parliament for about 11 years now. And so, but attention is currently being drawn to it, and we hope to see something after the 2024 election. We were able to get the example I wanted to show before this, the Speaker of Parliament to pledge at the Tang Palace to ensure the implementation of the bill when it gets to Parliament. Currently, the bill is a cabinet, and we are pulling our quiet diplomacy to ensure that the bill gets to Parliament, because when it gets to Parliament, we are likely to see at least some development on that. And like I said, we also engage students or youth, student leaders and the youth. And this was very recent. We met the youth to still sell the idea to them on the need to democratize the local government system. You know, people are always looking for MP positions, but if the local government system is democratized, the youth, women, and persons with disability have more opportunities to occupy positions because it's very big at the local level. So we brought the youth together to discuss how best this can be solved. You see them exchanging their ideas on our proposals and what they think should be taken out, what they think should be added, and etc. So these are student youth from various universities, polytechnics, training colleges that we brought together to have that discussions with them. And all these are documented with videos and like the pictures I have here. You see them exchanging the ideas that, no, we think this particular proposal should be moved to this particular side. You think this is the best way, but this is what we think should be done, like we discussed the other time. Participation in the policy-making processes. Now, this is one example of a high-level engagement we've been having. This is the Trade Union Congress, Trade Union Congress in Ghana. And any civil society or organization that is able to get the attention of this group for a particular policy, you are likely to see it's successful, because this is the union that houses all the workers in Ghana, and they are able to advocate strongly for a particular position. So we met them. We're actually discussing how best the local government can be reformed for effective service delivery. These are the Ghanaian traditional leaders, women traditional leaders. They also have a say. They're actually advocating that since the birth of the Fourth Republic, the chieftaincy system has been pushed aside. And so now people come and dig gold, mine gold in their communities, and the approval is given in Accra, and the chief doesn't know anything about it. So they are actually advocating for a seat in parliament so that they will be able to monitor government processes. So we met the women, traditional leaders, and even the chiefs. And this is what we told them. We were of the view that in Ghana, we treat the chieftaincy system with some form of dignity. But the politics that we play in Ghana is sometimes muddy. And for a chief to be sitting in a general assembly and for a very young man to be saying certain things against the chief, it will not be prudent. So why don't we help in creating a space called the Council for Local Government and Development, where they will occupy to actually champion their needs. And they bought into the idea. They made some few revisions into it. We are yet to meet the National House of Chiefs to satisfy ourselves on that particular proposal and push it to Parliament. So they are also giving their opinion on what they think should be done, some few revisions. So these are Queen Mothers. Queen Mothers. I heard someone say, So that's the Ghanaian culture for you. So these are few lessons that we've learned. At the community level, we realized that without adequate funding and proper self-governance strategies, community platform would not be strengthened. There will be a pale shadow. They will be actually weak. What we have learned over the period in terms of engaging citizens, that the political and economic context is so important when you want to embark on any capacity building or citizens engagement. There are some communities, when you get there, you will not be allowed to enter because you'll be given an information that they have heard that IDEC is part of MPP, which is one political party, but in their community, they are for NDC, so you cannot come in. Yes, this is how serious it is. So it's very important in our context that when you are embarking on citizens engagement and building platforms, you understand the political and economic context. And the last one is that quiet diplomacy is key in high-level stakeholder engagement. What do I mean by high-level diplomacy? The recent peace pact that we had, it was very difficult to get His Excellency the President and the former President to sit, because that election was very high-staked. It took a lot of quiet diplomacy behind the scenes, trying to convince these stakeholders to come together in broad daylight and in camera to sign this particular peace pact. We are preparing for the next one, but I know it's going to be difficult because the MPP says that they are going to break the 8. They break the 8 means that every political party is conventionally given 8 years to rule conventionally, but they want to break that particular 8. And the former president also wants to come to power. So this peace pact, I know the people of Eswatini will pray for us and help us mobilize resources to have them. The last lesson we've learned is that, you can't just be conducting citizens engagement. You need to build capacity. The more capacity you build, the more sharper the engagement becomes. So like they mentioned, Doc was mentioning some few days ago. You didn't go around engaging citizens, but you also need to build their capacity, especially for sustainability purposes. Thank you very much.
There's a lot that IDEC is doing. I see that you use a cocktail of the citizen engagement strategies to engage the citizens. There's informing, there's consultation, collaboration. There's a lot, because I think it is really difficult to use them exclusively. Okay, I like the last lesson learned that you shared. Citizen engagement goes with capacity building. These two are directly proportional. If you want to engage me, you have to capacitate me first, so that whatsoever I am contributing makes sense, and it can be used for economic development. And throughout the presentation, I saw that you try to include everyone, even from community level. Grassroots people are there. The women, yep. I saw the queens. There was no king there. So I think you have queendoms, not kingdoms. The youth also is involved. Their voices are heard. So it is a sort of like inclusive citizen engagement, and you really capacitate them. Okay, maybe we can take a few questions now. If we've got questions or suggestions or anything that you want to add to the presentation. I think in Swaziland we have quite a lot of IDEC, sort of like IDEC organizations. Yes, and I think some of the NGOs here, they do something almost similar to what you are doing. So maybe they've learned a lot from you. Okay. Okay, we'll start with somebody who lives in Ghana spiritually. Physically in Swaziland.
I love Ghana, by the way. Mine will be more of a comment, and I just want to commend you for the work you have done, and particularly on the cocoa. I've been watching the documentaries, and I'm really impressed that the communities are now benefiting from that production. So now it's a young organization, and it was established in 2000, right? Yes. And how did you gain such a large footprint? And I'm basing it on the cocoa challenges you've had in the past. So how did you gain that fruition, that buy-in from the citizens to gain so much trust?
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll just questions, and then Paul will then respond.
Thank you so much for that presentation. It shows how civil society is also working to engage the communities or the citizens. My question actually goes to Richard, based on the presentation he made yesterday, and me coming also from civil society. I would like to have clarity in terms of the definition of citizen engagement, because we use that term in the civil society space. What we've learned is actually there's a difference between citizen engagement and citizen participation. But we use, me and him, we use citizen, yeah, I think you get it. So we would like to have that clarity so that we know what we are doing. Thank you.
One more last question before Paul responds.
Thank you. My question would be, at what level do you have an engagement with the government, and what are the challenges, if there are any opportunities, and whether is there any pushback on that level of engagement? Thank you.
Okay, so let's start from the bottom. I think the last one, you wanted to know at what level do we engage the government and whether there are some challenges that we confront. Well, from my experience with IDEC, engaging the government is very tough. It's a very difficult terrain, probably because you are a civil society and you don't really have a mandate. You're just a bridge between citizens and government. So it takes some level of skill and influence to actually penetrate through the corridors of powers to get duty bearers listen to what you have to do. And like I said, one of the strategies we've been using is quite diplomacy. And so, for example, if we want to get to the president, what my executive director and other senior research fellows will have to do is that you dig round. You have to go round the person to ensure that you have some other people that respect so much. IDEC is currently undertaking a project sponsored by the British High Commission to ensure that there's an impasse between the Electoral Commission and the opposition party. They are not in talking terms, and we are heading towards election. And so what we are doing is using eminent persons, respected people in the country, to ensure that we get the attention of the Electoral Commissioner to sit around the table to discuss their problems and see how best they can be solved. So it's a very tough terrain, engaging the government in Ghana on issues, especially from the civil society perspective. And you need a lot of influence, skill, and determination to be able to get there. And like I said in the beginning, engaging government on some issues will need collaboration with other civil societies together. So you could see that in the civil society terrain in Ghana, IDEC largely collaborates with CDD, IE, and some other civil societies together. We are actually trying to get the attention of the Electoral Commission, so IDEC, CDD, and some civil society are coming together to see if our presence and collective action can compel her to listen to us. The other question on how did we get such attraction? Well, is how well you work with the people in the community. You know, when people feel part of something, they want to own it. Yes, they are not seeing you pushing it down their throat, and they see that you are there for their interest. And so during the Cocoa Life, you have IDEC staff really in the communities, stay in the community for a very long period of time and engaging them. They see you as part of it. And they are gatekeepers in every community. Yes. And it is very important before you get into it, you conduct your contextual analysis. It's very key to understand the way they think and how they go around their things before you go into that community. There's a particular project where they were supposed to plant a borehole, and they missed the step. And this is for one civil society, not IDEC. They planted a borehole at a particular place. They felt it was shorter to the community. Now, after a period of time, it was lying there. Nobody was using it. And so they went around to check why people were not using it, only for them to find out that that place that they had planted the borehole was formerly a cemetery some years ago. And, man, you want me to drink that water? So it's very important for you to understand the context, and I think that's what we've been doing over the years. I don't know if I've answered all the questions. I think the other one was a comment. Yes. Then, Richard, you had a question, so I would like to give the microphone to you.
I thought you had seen that I was sleeping, so how could you ask a question to a person who is sleeping? But, okay, let me come here because the challenge is Okay, thank you very much. I think for me, first of all, as an English word, I don't want us to confuse that it is only about governments. No. I think the best way to think about it, think about what do governments do? Governments engage citizens. What do citizens do? Citizens engage with government. So all of us do citizen engagement, but from different perspectives. When we talk about citizen engagement from the side of the duty bearers, as we call them, then you are talking about how they ensure that citizens participate or engage with that issue of public concern or policy or whatever that the government is putting in place. But on the side of citizens, when they organize and engage, they are actually doing what you would call participation in the affairs of their country, of their region, of their community, as he has been sharing with us. So the idea is not that the term citizen engagement is an exclusive term for governments or public authorities. No, it is why we use it here is to make sure that it's clear that when we talk about citizen, because you see, can a government can it do citizen participation? It would be, because it is the government or the public authority, it will need people to participate in what they are doing. So it is those citizens who are participating. For it as a government, it's engaging with them to participate. So I think for me, the fine detail, what you would just do is to conveniently see that this term is really about how do I get citizens to participate in something that government is doing. That from your government side, you are actually promoting citizen engagement. For the citizens, they are participating. And therefore, the best term is for them to use is citizen participation. So that's the difference I would make. I hope it doesn't confuse more, but at least that is just for purposes of saying this is a convenient way of making sure that you create a distinction between what the government is doing, because you see, it would be very bad for a government to stand up and say, oh, we are doing citizen participation. Because how can you participate in your own thing? It's very hard. It's something that you know, you as a duty bearer has got to get others to participate and to engage with you. But from your side, yours is always to ensure that you encourage that engagement. So that's how I use these. We use these terms just to create that convenience. But they are not mutually exclusive. One is not. It doesn't mean that only governments do citizen engagement. Because even for an organization like he has been sharing, they can do citizen engagement at a community level. At that level, they can do what they call citizen engagement. And they are right at that level. But if you want to create a much more simpler distinction, that's why we use the term citizen engagement when we talk about government and its work. I hope that clarifies anything.
Thank you very much. I think answered. So it's a Ghanaian lady. Okay, we have about 19 minutes to go through questions and discussions. So maybe let's do the questions first. Who else wants to ask Paul something?
Thank you so much, Paul. Yeah, presentation was highly informative. We've learned a lot. But maybe you mentioned the type of skills one has to take care of before engaging with the communities or citizens. I just want to find out which skills did you prioritize, because when I was listening to your presentation, it seems like one has to prioritize social skills. One has to ensure that you have a bit of, not even a bit of, emotional intelligence, because I know working with communities is not easy. Once you lack those skills, anything that you are going to present to them, it will be like it's a non-starter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James, right? James. Paul, thank you very much for the presentation. I have 3 questions. One is more of a question comment. So the space that IDEC works in is very delicate, because if you are working at the municipal assembly, there's a thin line between what the district municipal assemblies do and what you are doing. So how do you manage the tension, and how do you manage the power relations? Because they must also build boreholes. That bridge that was broken must be done by the district assembly. And there you go in, you engage. So how do you manage that tension? Don't they feel you are taking their jobs in a way? Yeah. Now, number 2, once you have success stories or even lessons, whether good or bad, how do you cascade those stories up the government channel, particularly to regional and national? Is there any mechanism that IDEC has to channel that result? And maybe the last 2 points is on accountability. Does IDEC work in the space of accountability for community level to hold government accountable for what they are supposed to do? Do you work in that space? And lastly, I see you have IDEC Ghana. Do you intend extending to other countries? Because if you say Ghana, then the next is maybe IDEC Eswatini. Do you intend going to other countries?
Yes. So the last one, the aspirations to go African, just like CDD is doing, and we are currently working on some documents to expand to some of the other African countries. So we'll see, Doctor. We'll come to you for some consultation and some resource mobilization. See how best we can expand. The other one, in terms of the last one, accountability. Do we work in the accountability space? Yes. The gift nets are trained on how to, like I mentioned in the first particular project in 2012, where the gift members are trained and given the skills to track government budgets or the government business cycle. So what goes into that is that they are trained on when the budget drafting begins, when the needs assessment is conducted by the municipal district, and then when the medium-term development plan is actually developed. What goes into it? Now, they are also given the skill to track the implementations of certain projects that have been done over the years. And intermittently, some of the tools that are being used by DataCipation, community scorecards, and etc., to measure quality and service delivery. So the GIF Hub actually does this particular accountability thing. And there are tools that we have given them that they themselves are also improvise to ensure accountability from duty bearers, and it is both from the demand and the supply side of the accountability process. How do we manage the tension? And just like you acknowledge, it is also a very difficult terrain to work. But this is what IDEC does over the period. I mean, we don't enter just into the particular committee. In fact, the truth is that the district chief executives, the assemblymen and the municipal chief executive, they are actually happy when you come to them that this is a funding you've received, you want to help the GIFNet in this area to identify their needs and then ensure that perhaps we construct this particular road or build this particular hospital. They're actually happy because, like I said, they don't have the funding most of the time. And so they are happy to collaborate with IDEC to also be part of that particular success story. So you see them when we go off a little, calling that, when are you guys coming? There's this particular project, we've received this particular funds, can you support us with this particular matching grant to help implement this? So it's a difficult terrain, but there are some success stories where, due to the lack of funds and the kind of politics we play, politics of objectivity, people want to see things. So these political heads are always in open arms to receive organizations that are coming to help them, at least mention that when I came, I did this. So it's not really a challenge. There are some political gimmicks in there. The other one concerning how do we disseminate this particular success stories. And they do it for us, especially at the community level. The municipal chief executives, the assemblymen, they actually do it for us in their reports and etc. And what IDEC avoids is always to be at the fore, because at the end of the day, you won't be in the community forever. And so whatever is done is actually handed over to the community with IDEC behind the scenes, so that citizens feel part of it. You are not around, they want to be calling you all the time. So you don't really see IDEC being visible in community activities during certain issues, but we are actually behind the scenes and ensuring. So they actually carry the information across. There was another question. I don't know if what skills do we prioritize? I think it's all you've mentioned. I mean, they are not mutually exclusive. Engaging community demand a lot of skills. You need emotional intelligence. You also need some hard skills. Some of the training skills we give to the GIFNet members: lobbying. We train how to lobby, how to negotiate with duty bearers on what can be done, when and how. So there are a lot of skills that is demanded. But that is why the working group, if you look at the structure I give, the working group, they are individuals that actually lead the GIFNet to engage the duty bearers, and they are not just nobody. They are people who really know their stuff in the community and know how to muddle through the community structures to get things done on behalf of the larger community. So you need all the skills you've mentioned: emotional intelligence and all the skills, lobbying, negotiation, and trying to find a way around. Yeah. I hope I don't get any question again, otherwise I have to get water.
Thank you. I wanted to know that since the implementation or since the establishment of IDEP, have you ever done any evaluation? And if we have done any evaluation, when you compare the period before the establishment of IDEP and the period after, do you see any improvement in governance since you are now engaging the citizens? So what are the major maybe achievement or best practices that you have observed ever since you have established IDEP?
Thank you. This is an easy question, Paul. I'm just seeing as you demonstrate the extent of your engagement, with the various stakeholders. I realize you've got a good footprint in terms of stakeholder engagement. I just want to ask, what has been your experience in terms of maybe having government or other upstream, organizations engaging you because of the footprint that you already have?
Okay, so let me start from the bottom, the very last one. I don't know if you heard during my presentation, I mentioned that we've been engaged by several organizations, both national and supranational organizations, to lead some particular projects because of the footprint we've led in our political or democratic landscape in Ghana. And so, for example, we've been engaged twice, and before I even came here, there's another call from the British High Commission to help navigate Ghana through this high-stake election, which is coming up in 2024. Okay, and I don't think the British High Commission will just engage anybody because they want to engage anybody. I mean, we've really done much work in terms of democracy, and this is even tied to the first question, whether we've conducted some evaluation. Yes, several evaluations have been conducted in terms of our programmatic areas and as an organization, and I could say that yes, there's been much improvement. And like Richard said, we should be very careful when we want to discuss impact, but we could associate that so far in the sub-region, Ghana is the white flag in terms of democratic consolidation. Okay, and why? Perhaps because the IDEC is also, contributing to ensure that democracy is sustained through our quiet diplomacy and our projects that we are implementing. So we can associate ourselves to this particular story. So there's been some evaluations and there's been much progress. We established in 2000, and so far, Ghana is described as the beginning of democracy in West Africa, and we want to associate ourselves because we've done a lot of investment in this. So there's been progress since our birthday in 2000. Yeah. Yes, I will not sit again.
Do you have any other questions for Paul? Okay, Dr. Nimako wants to say something. Oh, I thought your hand was up. Oh, okay. Okay, it seems as if, oh, okay.
Well, thank you. Mine will be, how do you manage the issue of disputes among the communities during this engagement? I'm looking at Ghana, it's got different tribes, and like us, Eswatini, we're of one tribe. But you find it's difficult, to to engage these communities because they will be fighting maybe for border issues with the chiefdoms and stuff. So how do you manage those issues? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Like I mentioned earlier, IDEC is a civil society organization. IDEC is not a community member. And so we try as much as possible to allow community structures do their work. And so there are a lot of, we provide technical and logistical support, and there are community structures that are actually there to ensure proper conflict resolution. So there are certain protocols that we help community gatekeepers or leaders to follow to ensure that some disputes are mitigated and some resolved entirely. There are some ones that are very difficult to manage. You can only dials them at a point in time because they are actually historical, and especially in the northern regions of our country. So there are some that you can only mitigate by activating community structures. In fact, from our experience, if you are working in a community that is highly polarized like this with a lot of disputes and you are not careful, and you, the civil society, take the lead to ensure that these conflicts are mitigated, you are likely to even spare the whole conflict. So it's very important that community structures that have been created by community members are activated to ensure that conflicts are resolved. And so that's what we've been doing over the years. Like I mentioned, you don't see IDEC at the fore. No, we are always behind, but building the capacities of citizens and community leaders to ensure that they have what they are supposed to have in their communities. I don't know if I've answered your question very well. In fact, there are even some of the conflicts that you pretend that you've not seen them. Yeah, you have to pretend that you've not even seen them before you are labeled as belonging to this particular group or the other. Yeah.
Okay, I can see that there are no more questions for Paul. Thank you very much, Paul. Okay, well, we're going to have a health break. I have a special announcement for Auda NEPAD delegates. Please kindly see Tuli during break time. She has something for you. Yes. Thank you. We can have our tea. We're coming. Huh? Okay. Okay, Auda NEPAD delegates, please check with Tuli to verify your flight times. Yes, thank you. We're going to come back at quarter to 11. Thank you. Okay, no, our break is 30 minutes. I thought it's 15. We're coming back at 11. Enjoy. Is Paul still around? Paul. Okay, before we start on our next session, there is a question directed to Paul from Mr. Mbingo.
Paul, yes, please.
Good morning, everyone. I will not say that I follow Ghana closely, but it's one of those countries that I highly respect. And thank you for your presentation on the institute. So I was initially not going to ask. I'm very, very shy. but I'm absolutely shy. Poor me. But after the responses, I did have a question that I wanted to, maybe you can help us clarify, maybe to demystify how the Institute also can be seen in our eyes. So one way of saying it is, I heard you mention that you have two parties in Ghana, but your work suggests that you are very neutral. So my question is, do you think that in doing the work that you do, you have to be progressive, shall I say that, or you have a wider chance of succeeding if you are neutral? And I say this because we have an organization in this country that is almost similar to what you stand for. And as you know, we only have one system of governance in this country, but it also helps to have the other progressives taking part in the civic society engagement. So my question is leading towards that in terms of civic society engagement. Does it have to be about critical assessment of the state, and does it have to be critical assessment of the party in power? Okay. And maybe my one last, just as a link to it, does funding play a role in how you do your work? Does who pay the piper, call this tune that you are on? Thank you.
Okay, so this last question, somebody asked me when we went for the break, and he was like, he didn't want to ask it here. There are some kind of influences along the line on what the donor will want you to do, but they are very minimal, I could say, from my experience so far. It's just that I was telling a colleague that we usually have something we call the tyranny of the log frame. You present your log frame, and then, okay, well, you presented it, so you are supposed to follow it hook, line, and sinker. All the activities with the budget line you are supposed to implement, and then there's sometimes very little room for modification along the line, because when you were conceptualizing your theory of change, to the time funds are released for implementation, context might have changed. So some few things might have shifted. So sometimes you will have a little challenge negotiating with donors on how best you should go around the way. So funding actually plays a role in our activity, and if you don't have the resources, you can actually do the work. And government don't support civil society. You have to find a way of mobilizing resources. And we are grateful to our donors over the period. I think they've been very benevolent to Ghana. And there's a lot of interest in Ghana, like I've been saying over the period, because it looks like it holds currently the democratic architecture of the sub-region, and it's very important now. You have the Ivorians coming in terms of insurgencies, you have the Togolese coming in, and those from Burkina Faso and Niger also coming in now. It looks like a safe hub for the sub-region now, and it is very important. So donors are actually interested, and they are supporting civil society organizations like us to ensure that we have peace. I was mentioning to somebody that currently we've been supported by the European Union to implement some electoral reforms for the upcoming elections, which we've already started. And so funding actually plays a role. Now, your first question about whether you have to be neutral or critical. I should say it depends on the context. Okay, it depends contextual. There are some of the issues that you may have to be critical, and there's some of the issues that you have to be neutral. But from IDEX experience, I think much success is actually chalked when you are neutral, but intensify your quiet diplomacy strategies. Well, there may be some who want to catch the public eye and be very strong in the government, in the public, and etc. When you do that for a very long period of time, you don't have trust in the eyes of politicians and the duty bearers. So I remember there was a particular incident that one political party had to approach IDEC, what are you guys doing? Help us do this. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. But they've seen that, well, this is an organization that we can trust at least to ensure this. So from the context that we operate, there are times that you have to be critical, but there are times when you have to be wise. And by wise I mean neutral. And that's the best way you can model through our political context, especially with MPP being the MPP and NDC being the gatekeepers of our political sanctuary. I hope I've answered the question. You have another one? No, I think it's okay. Oh, but you can still ask. I mean, that's fine.
So my third question would be linked to my sphere of work, which is media. How then does media get involved in your work, and how are you representing that stakeholder within the framework of your, shall we say, engagement? Thank you.
Okay, so IDEC have a niche in Ghana. Now, what we have done over the years is that there are places where we allow the media, or we collaborate strongly with the media because of a particular agenda we want to push. And like I mentioned in the beginning, we are actually championing the democratization of the local government system in Ghana to ensure that it becomes effective. And this demands some constitutional amendments. Now, these constitutional amendments that we are pushing for it to be amended, they are entrenched clauses. And in our constitution, when we say entrenched clauses, it means that we need to conduct a referendum, yes and no, before that particular clauses. And looking at the threshold in the constitution, demands about 75% of people turning out, and 40% turning out, and 75% people voting yes. And the framers of the constitution had this in mind so that nobody can just get up and then change any provisions. And this particular provision that we are advocating for its amendment is entrenched. This particular one, you need the media. So all the cases I showed, we had media representation, and that's how I was able to get the video. The video I showed about the Peace Pact President, His Excellency President Akufo-Addo and former President Mahama signing the Peace Pact. I actually got it from one of the media stations, not from our archives. I got it online. So we strongly collaborate with media where we are supposed to. Now, there are some places that you are not even allowed to take notes, or let alone pictures. And this is about the quiet diplomacies, and where you are engaging very sensitive key stakeholders on very sensitive issues that we don't engage the media. So there are places where we engage the media strongly in terms of awareness creation. And there are certain places that we don't engage the media because of how it will be turned out when it's placed outside. So it depends on the issue we are addressing at the point. Yes. Every activity or every project proposal has a media dimension. It will actually have a very big department that is in charge of media in any activity that we want to implement, especially concerning citizens' engagement, capacity building, etc. They are highly involved. The recent one we had before I came, we had about, I think, 16 media houses representing, and it was all over. So we strongly collaborate. In fact, the work of civil society organization in Ghana cannot be effective if you don't involve the media. No, it's not going to work. Yes. If you don't involve the media, your work in Ghana would not be effective. It will not be heard. It will not get the attention it's supposed to get. So the media plays a very important role in. And so sometimes even the media themselves, we conduct some capacity training for themselves and how to effective media reportage. I mean, one of the projects we are working on from the EU is to how to create a very good balance between the National Communication Authority and the National Media Commission in monitoring media reportage, especially during election period. You know, politicians own media stations, and so when it's getting to elections, everybody wants to push their agenda, and it's because of some institutional gap we have. So IDEC is currently working to ensure that we bridge that particular gap to be able to regulate, sort of, I'm saying regulate, not to regulate the media because it's an independent organization, but to regulate the kind of reportage that is normally given during elections. So the media play a very extensive role in what that we do at IDEC. Yeah. And we wouldn't have been here without them. I mean, yeah. Another one. You said 10, so this is like 8.
Okay, let us clap hands for Paul once again. Okay, we're going to move to the next item on the agenda. The presentation on engagement of underrepresented groups in line with STYIP Agenda 2063. And that presentation will be given by Joshua. Please clap hands for Joshua as he comes forward.
Give me your email address. You can even type it. Just type it. Okay. Just type it. Is it Gmail or Gmail? Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so whilst Paul helps with my presentation, I just want to introduce myself.
So my name is Joshua Kwe, and I work Joshua Kwe Kuma Kwe. I emphasize on the middle one, not for you to know or to mention, just for you to hear that I have 3 names. So my name is Joshua Kwe Kuma Kwe, and I work with the African Union within the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate, and I'm in charge of youth engagement. So that is what I do, and I'm hoping that this presentation goes so well and incites your understanding to appreciate young people's issues. And I believe that you wouldn't be grilling me like you did to my countryman, Paul. Okay, so okay, thank you. So first of all, I would like to give you an understanding of how our programming works at the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate with regards to youth development and empowerment. So I have to use this one, okay. So how we work, so with our programming portfolio at the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate, there are actually 2 thematic areas that we look at. First is the coordination and outreach. The second is the youth engagement portfolio, or programming that has to do with young people. And I would like to explain further. With regards to the youth and coordination and outreach, there are key areas that we look at. First, ending violence against women. So we actually draw or organize programs that end violence or that empower our women in our on our continent. And then other one too is mobilizing fund in what we call a trust fund for women empowerment. Another one too is advocacy. Mostly we tend to push young people's or women inclusion agenda in policy advocacy. So basically factoring young people issues and women issues in policy decision. That is what we do at the advocacy level. And then another one is the networking and multi-stakeholder platform. So we leverage on network with partners and stakeholders to advance our work at the Youth Directorate. And another aspect of it is financial inclusion, and you would appreciate it more as the presentation goes on. So the financial inclusion, of course, is basically to bridge the gender gap, or the economic gap and the gender gap within our continent, and then, of course, to ensure gender parity, as I've said. So empowering young people, and then factoring young people into our economic activity within the continent, empower or ensures gender parity. That is the understanding of, or that is the kind of work that we do at the Directorate. At the youth level, or the youth division, we look at programs around entrepreneurship, engagement in the sense of building the capacity of young people to hold policy and duty bearers accountable, making spaces available for them to engage these policymakers so that their views and aspirations can be included in certain initiatives and policy decisions. And then we also fall mostly on partnership. And Hosnia will agree with me that we are always knocking on their doors for partnership to engage in a lot of youth activities across the continent. And of course, our NEPAD too is one of our major partners we do our development work with on the continent. And of course, we have other education initiatives I'll explain as we go on, and then young professional programs that we've been rolling out on the continent, where we give the platform for young people to work with partners at the continental level, either UN agencies, AU agencies, and other organs of the AU. And then, of course, we have programs that programs on sexual reproductive health and rights, mental health, climate change, also fall under our health and well-being program. So, in summary, this is our program portfolio at the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate, Coordination and Youth Division. Now, let me try to explain or situate the conversation around who young people are and then the demographics of young people in Africa. So you would agree with me that young people are everywhere. And per statistics, we form about 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion. That is a lot of young people on the continent of Africa. And within these 1.2 billion people, there are about 433 million who are within the age of 15 to 35. And per our frameworks, the African Union frameworks and conventions, young people basically is defined as someone between the age of 15 to 25 years. 35 years. That defines who a young person is. So with our population of 75% of 1.2 billion people, it means that if you count, let's say here, if you count like 11 or 10 people, about 7 of us are below the age of, or either 35 years or below the age of 35. And this explains why, having or integrating young people's programming or programs in activities or initiatives are really important. The fact is, regardless of how you look at such programs, it benefits young people, or young people are at the receiving end of such program. And it's always important to have their perspective, and to have their views included in initiatives that invariably benefit them. So this is the demographic of young people in Africa. We are a lot, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. And our mandate, so with at the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate, our core mandate, is to unleash, regardless of who you are as a young person, unleash your potential. More like identify programs that speak to your peculiar need, because we believe that every young person, regardless of where you are, your needs are unique. Okay, every young person, our needs are all unique, because, interacting with young people across the continent, young people in Ghana, their perspective about certain things are different from young people in others, and are different from young people in Eswatini here. And it's because we all have aspirations and ambition. And as women, as our directorate, our is to unleash the potential of young people, particularly by achieving gender and youth parity, to enable development and foster meaningful engagement. So the thing is that when you identify these young person and you empower them or engage them in meaningful conversation, they are always empowered to appreciate we are empowered, and then you tend to appreciate issues from our perspective. Now, when you appreciate issues from young person's perspective, then you tend to design programs that enhances our development. Okay, so you can't. That is why Paul mentioned of the, an example where a borehole was sunk at a community that no one wanted to go there, because perhaps the people there were not engaged well, and such initiative was implemented in such communities. So the same way, if you want a young person to engage in your initiative, you can't just sit at a high level decision-making table and then decide that, well, we have this program for young people without soliciting their input in such program. You realize that such program or initiative will be a white elephant, like no one would want to be associated. So as Women, Gender and Youth Directorate, our mandate is ensure that young people's perspective, like we have to have a footprint at every level of engagement, at a continental, national, or even continental, regional, national, and even continental level. We need to have a footprint there to ensure that young people are represented. There's equal representation there. And yesterday, Dr. Nimako spoke about the Agenda 2063, and it is a continental framework, like he explained. And our vision or mandate is influenced by one of the aspirations, which is Aspiration 6. It specifically speaks to the work that we do at the directorate. And, it says an Africa whose development is people-driven and relying on the potential of African people, especially its women and youth, and caring for children. It means that all the segments of people, reading it over and over and over again, you realize that the aspiration has some kind of emotional connection with you. So an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential, it means that every single person within this room has a unique potential, especially you women and especially young people over here, and caring for our children. It means that, children who are even yet to be born, we need to design a program that protect them, that make sure that, we create a safe space and environment for each and every person on the continent of Africa. And I explained earlier about, the demography of young people in Africa. And you agree with me that young people nowadays are always for a disruptive, change. Young people nowadays don't want things to go like, process. We just don't want to fit into society, not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense. We always would want to find a way to make a change, like find a way to innovate, to find a way to grow our potential based on the tools and skills that we have. So young people are always vibrant. Young people are always looking for safe space to grow. Young people are always looking for opportunity to develop. And of course, women or gender, women constitute half of Africa's population and are necessary for our advancement as a continent. And there is I don't know, but there's a saying that if you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation. Yes, so the same way we, are inspired by the same aspiration that women play or are integral part of our development. And there's no way we can also stand somewhere and decide women-related or gender-related program without soliciting their views and aspirations in such programs. Now, I'll explain this as we go, but I just want you to understand that, in my previous slides, in mainstreaming youth and gender programs, all that we do or all that we are trying to do or we have been doing over the years, over year on year, is to integrate young people and gender perspective. Like, I've given explanation earlier in my presentation. Women, integrate the youth affairs and gender perspective and, women's development into work of all stakeholders at all levels, like I explained, continental, regional or national level. We always would want to integrate young people's perspective into any of our policies. And I'll explain these things earlier, these thematic areas that we look at, youth and gender transformative programming that we do. We maintain strong foundation for such programs to take off, using data and policy and comms to take off such programs. And then we catalyze actions in countries. And then I'll explain this too in my other slides. For scale and impact, basically means that countries are doing what they need to do to develop their young people. But as a directorate, we have to be the catalyst that enhances the work of these countries. And we'll get to that aspect of the presentation. So the youth and the gender and youth transformative program, one main aspect of it is first to achieve gender parity, 50-50, and have like 35% of youth quotas in at the workplace actually. So it means that in what the 50-50 means that in every organization or in every department, either at the AU regional or national level, we seek to achieve a 50-50 parity. Means that in your office, if there are 3 men, there should be 3 women. And within these people, there should be at least 35% of these people are youth or young people. So you can have, let's say in your office, you have 10 people. What we seek to achieve, or our aim with our programming, is to ensure that we have gender parity. Not just representation, or what we call tokenism, but their views and aspirations are appreciated under meetings, and their views are inculcated in policies and programs. And of course, equal pay, which is really important in our dispensation. So we want to have 50-50, or 50-50 representation in terms of male or female. And within this, we want to have 35% of these people as young people, because we need to build that chain, that pipeline of talent, so that when our older generation are no more or they are retired, young people can take up the mantle and, still continue with the change that we've been doing. Another aspect of our work, which I explained, is the safety, health, and well-being issues on mental health. We undertake mental health programs and sexual and reproductive health program, either with countries, member state partners, at the continental, regional, or national levels. And then I spoke a little bit about engagement in my previous slides, where I made mention of the fact that we create spaces for young people. So one of the things that we do in terms of engaging young people, creating space for young people, is organizing policy dialogue through conferences and deliberation. And one of our key at the AU, one of our key strengths is our convening power. So if we want to, undertake a policy advocacy, we don't mind engaging or convening, your member state or regional states to a meeting and engaging them to hear from young people what they think and what they want in their respective regions. And of course, we do IGDs, which is intergenerational dialogue. There is always a gap between, this current generation and our older generation. There is always a mismatch and miscommunication, or what we really want from each other. So mostly people think that young people today are should I say, are not like the older generation, because they feel like young people today are maybe demanding so much, unlike their time, where they have to follow processes. But today is different. Young people want economic empowerment. Young people want to be empowered to be part of decision making. Even in our homes, you dare not when elders are seated and are talking, you dare not, as a young person, even sit and listen. You need not to listen, but your parents will just make decision for you. You have no right than to obey. But now things have changed. You just have to seek their views. Of course, you use your experience to guide them on what is needed or what is expected of them, so we can, they can follow the development process that you have laid down for them. And then, of course, we use social media engagement you know, we have social media, and then even with social media, we have a lot of data of young people across the continent that we use to reach out to them. And of course, we have women and youth development, you know, giving them capacity development and enhancing their employability skills, you know, and their entrepreneurship skills, so that they can own their growth as young people. So that is what we do in terms of our program and what we seek to achieve with our programs. And then, like I explained earlier, as we try to systematically integrate young people and women perspective into policies at the relevant stakeholder level, we do this through policies and programs, institutions, and capacities. And with policies and programs, we target gender equality and youth empowerment. I think I've explained this. And then, of course, with institution, like I explained earlier, we target to have a 50-50 gender parity, and then 35% of youth within organizations. So in every organization, we seek to have 35% of young people at the continental, regional, and all level. And then, of course, at a capacity level, in every organization, we seek to achieve or advocate that in every organization, there must be a focal person. This focal person should be in charge of youth programming. Okay, someone who will more like be the bridge between your young people and your organization. So you can rally such support from your organization to support young people. So such focal people or persons are really important, and we work with such people to achieve that. Now, catalyzing action, like I explained earlier, countries are doing a lot already, but how do we also leverage on our power as the AUC or directorate to enhance the work that these countries are doing? And we do this through policy advocacy, like I explained. We have one of the strongest powers, which is convening. So we can convene member states to policy advocacy meetings to ensure that whatever programs that they are doing is deepened within their countries. And then we also have capacity in the country, or capacity building, including country technical assistance. Of course, sometimes some countries need certain technical assistance to undertake certain projects within their communities, and as an organization, we support some countries to implement such programs within their countries. And then we share best practices with countries. So for instance, Eswatini is doing something on youth development. Maybe South Africa wants to do something similar. So what happens is we connect these countries, and they share best practices on how they can also benefit or leverage on what has been done in Eswatini to benefit young people in South Africa. Now, in all these, we have some key initiatives that we've been running over the years. And until recently, we're running 1 million by 2021, and that's ended. And as a continuation of such initiative, we launched the 1 million next level. So basically, the 1 million next level seeks to give or connect young people to opportunities in education, which we call the 4 E's and 1 H, which I've highlighted earlier: education, employment, engagement or empowerment, and entrepreneurship, and health and well-being. So this is an ambitious initiative which aims to touch about 300 million young people across the continent. So this 1 million next level is implemented through what we call the Country Acceleration Strategy, CAS. So the Country Acceleration Strategy, if you look at it, it has a diagnostic stage, design, implementation, and then review. So the diagnostic stage actually enjoins country, okay, to give us key focal persons within their ministries. Some countries have ministries of youth. So we work with such ministries and design okay, identify key stakeholders within such organization and design programs within the 4 E's and then 1 H. So maybe they are running a program already in health, they are running a program already in education. So what we do is to scale that program they are running within that country. So catalyst for impact. Now, YFA is women and youth in financial and economic inclusion, and YFA also seek to, remove barriers that perpetuate poverty and social injustice against women and young people. And what the initiative, in summary, seek to do is to unlock about $100 billion for 100 million young women in Africa by 2030. And policies have been developed, partners have been engaged, and very soon, this initiative will reach every single woman on this continent. And then, of course, we have the Bingwa Initiative. The Bingwa Initiative mobilizes young people as ambassadors. So basically what it does is we actually run this with African CDC, so they train young people as ambassadors to vaccination within. It was basically as a result of COVID, but now changed to other diseases within the continent, like measles, polio, other diseases. And we achieve all this, in terms of our engagement, or what was discussed 2 days ago. We use a framework called the MOCAP strategy. Strategy is what we use to engage young people across the continent. MOCAP strategy. And it basically means mobilizing or mobilization, organization, conversation, activation, advocacy, and then partnership. So the mobilization basically means mobilizing young people for a cause or an action and sensitizing them for meaningful engagement. So what we do is we have a data of young people. So if there is a program, a project that we want to run with a particular, either at the continental or regional or country level, we mobilize these young people for such action. Orientation means that we have a toolbox, so adaptable toolbox that allows stakeholders to be trained to appreciate young people issues better from our perspective. So that is what we do. We have adaptable training toolbox that helps different stakeholders to adapt to different needs of young people across the continent. And then I mentioned about creating a safe space for young people to deliberate on issues, the conversation. And it allows them to, this platform also allows young people to amplify their voice, for them to be heard, either offline, either converging people at a policy dialogue or having an online conversation, so young people can be heard and their needs also implemented in programs and policies. And then we have activation. Activation also empowering young people through supporting them sometimes with funding so that they can implement certain programs and projects within their communities. And we have advocacy, which I have broadly explained. Also, making sure that young people's views and, young people's view and their conversations are included or integrated in certain decision making. And then, of course, we also leverage on partnership. And we've been working with partnership all across to scale our work at the AU. And this is our theory of change. I heard Paul mention his, so this is our theory of change. Our theory of change basically falls on partnership, and when we have that partnership, it helps us to achieve, because that partnership, together we stand stronger. So we form mostly on partnership, like improve cohesion, and then another one which follows through, which is excellence in implementation. So the thing is, when we connect with so many partners with same interest of young people, we are able to implement and achieve our desired our desired outcome from our projects and programs. So the impact is so high. The impact is so high. And that speaks to the delivery of results at scale. You know, when we partner, we achieve our desired results, or we implement and make the impact and achieve our desired results at scale, meaning that on a larger scale, reach as many people as possible. Now, I just want to introduce you to some best practices that we've been, currently been working on. And we realize that young people, again, all over the world, sometimes have the skills, sometimes have the talent, have all that it takes to bloom and blossom on a continent. But a lot of the time, they lose track of what they intend to do. They want to do everything. Of course, it's good, but they lose their focus, and they are not really able to identify the key thing that makes them stand out among their peers. And that is why we are, together with partners, especially Trace and other partners, I think Alda Nepad, we are planning to launch an initiative called the Mentorship Hub. So this Mentorship Hub will be run year on year, where we will connect mentors or people who are at, who are at a place of authority or have expertise in their field, and connect them with mentees or young people who have interest in the work that they are doing. Not necessarily interest, but something that aligns with what one mentor is doing. So we connect these young people to the mentors, and they train based on agreed programs and frameworks within the mentorship program. Within the mentorship program, we match the mentees to the mentors over a period of 1 year. So over the period of 1 year, then their skills will be shaped. We believe that their skills will be shaped and be ready to be integrated into the economic activities of their respective countries. So it just like the citizenship engagement platform, the Mentorship Hub, we're going to have a website and an app where, of course, we'll match mentees and mentors. After we've matched them, for instance, if Dr. Enimako is my mentor, he wouldn't have to meet me physically. We can interface through the platform, either through the app or through the website. You can have, face-to-face conversation as in video conferencing. You can have chat. He can actually make reference to books that you need to read to build your capacities. He can refer you to some program that is happening that you need to be there, just so you learn. So that is the platform that we're trying to create with partners, with partners to scale the impact of this program. And then another one is AU Youth Corner Radio. So we want to reach, again, as many young people as possible. Young people all over the world, and, not all over the world, all over Africa and in the diaspora. So Trace is a multimedia company that has multimedia. It means that they have a lot of platforms, radio, TV, and they reach a lot of young people all over the world or all over the continent. So we are partnering with them to design a radio podcast. So this radio podcast will basically seek to integrate and spotlight emerging trends and issues that affect young people on the continent. So you have young people from Eswatini calling or being on a program to talk about issues that affect young people. You have young people from South Africa, you have young people from Ethiopia, you have young people from Ghana, all over the world, all over the continent, talking about issues that affect them. And we actually will be bringing duty bearers, policy makers, and those that can call the shot to such program to understand and listen to young people and appreciate what we want as a young person. Very soon I won't be a young person anymore. So There are programs that we also are working on currently under our youth empowerment portfolio. We have, of course, I've spoken a lot about them already. We have the AFCFTA Intra-Africa Trade Fair, which bring young people together, or those that are into entrepreneurship, to showcase what they've got to the continent, on the continent of Africa. We have Youth Innovation Challenge. We have a Wi-Fi, which I've spoken about. We have the entrepreneurship training and capacity building, and a whole lot. We have another one too. We have the African Youth Month, which actually we've started the International Youth Day. So we have a youth or a month-long activity to celebrate the young people on the continent of Africa. We have Pan-African Youth Forum, where then we have Model African Union, which is basically building the next generation of young leaders in a Model African Union General Assembly. So we have representation. We have, for instance, we can have young people from Eswatini, other countries all over the world, and stimulating the African Union General Assembly, just so they appreciate what goes on, at least more like preparing them to take up the leadership at the continental level. And then we also, under youth development, we have some initiative. I'll just talk on the African Youth Volunteer Program. So the African Youth Volunteer Program is an initiative that trains or recruits, trains and deploy young people all over Africa to organs of the AU, either the AU itself, organs of AU, and other partners, where young people are engaged within a period of 1 year or more to learn, in fact, work, not to learn, to work professionally at the AU. And, a lot of young people, of course, those that I've met and those that are maybe yet to meet, have passed through this program, and they are working professionally. And, those that went back home are even contributing more to their environment, and to their environment. And this is an initiative that has been running year on year, and I'm sure this year it will be launched very soon for all to benefit. And of course, I've spoken about the youth quota. I've spoken about and of course we have the young professional fellows that also I think is yet to fully take off. And I'm sure when it does, also gives young people the opportunity again to work, just like the African Union Volunteer Corps, where young people contribute their professional skills to the development of Africa through where they are placed. So they are, for instance, if you are from Eswatini, you wouldn't be deployed in Eswatini. You'd be deployed somewhere else, either SA or anywhere around the continent of Africa. So you can have the exposure, the skills, you can build your capacities, you can come back home and contribute to your country. And other programs, again, that I've spoken about already, yes, I've spoken a lot about this already. And yeah, so basically these are the programs that are running, or we've been running them throughout the year on year at the African Union. Thank you. My attention has been drawn to something. We even have an AU volunteer, Maxwell. Is it Maxwell? Maxwell, yes. He is from Eswatini here, but has been deployed to Alda, Nepal, and is working from SA. Yeah, so he's actually a beneficiary of our programs, and he can actually, in fact, let me even engage him to tell us how far his experience has been, yeah.
Angazi ngikhuluma ngalakithi noma ngikhulume official language, but let me use English for the purpose of. So as he has illustrated Joshua of the African Union opportunities or the African opportunities. I'm one of the beneficiaries, and I was deployed to Nepal last year, and I'm currently there. And my experience, well, it's a very, very, very beautiful one. Oh, okay. I'm involved in a number of projects. Citizen engagement participation is one of them. Other projects involving WFP, other projects involving agritech and agribusiness accelerator programs, because I have a qualification in agriculture economics. Is there anything else? No, my experience is 5 out of 5. My expectations are met. The environment, the groups, Dr. Gideon, my colleague Pasi here, and a whole lot of others. Halilu, Betty, just the whole team in my directorate and the organization of NEPAD as a whole. It's a very, very good one. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxwell. So my understanding is that we were supposed to even launch the next cohort, I think somewhere last month, but I'm sure it will be launched officially very soon. So normally we communicate this through the member state representation at the AU, and it is also made public through our social media platforms. So I'm sure Maxwell, being a very good ambassador of this program, when the program is launched again, he would tell everyone in Eswatini to take opportunity to apply. And the same way I'll do also for people in Ghana, to get to each and every one of you too. So you can encourage your young graduates to take such an opportunity. There's a lot you can learn. There's a lot you can take away from such programs, and it's really, really good professionally, career-wise, and even your aspiration as a young people. Everything about you changes, because sometimes when you are home or you are in your home country, it feels like the whole world revolves around you. But when you move away from your country, you realize that there is actually a different perspective to how my life is outside Eswatini or Ghana, and it's really great an experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. I heard that the youth age bracket has been extended to 45. Yeah, these things change. Thank you very much, Joshua, for such a good presentation. Sorry, that's mine. Yes. Okay. So I think I've seen that one of the things, or it's just a major thing that you are doing, you are trying to capacitate the youth to broaden their base in civic engagement, which is a good thing, and they cannot be engaged if they are not capacitated. So that is one of the major things that you are doing. And if now they are capacitated to the point of being involved in policy dialogues, it's really a good thing that you are doing. And the systemic integration of youth affairs and perspectives into the work of all stakeholders, I think it's one thing that as a country we are also trying to do. It's really a good way of moving forward. The youth really, really wants to be involved, and they should be. They should be involved. And I like that you have practical programs that are already running. And Maxwell, our ambassador, we're hoping that you are going to rope in many Emaswati to join. Okay, I know that the youth bracket 15 to 35 have got burning questions to ask Joshua. No, everyone. Okay. We'll start with the young person. Oh, okay.
A brilliant presentation indeed. Thank you so much, Joshua. I just want to find out, probably I missed it when I was on my way out. I want to find out, one thing that I've realized is that parents, they tend to neglect their daughters, their sons when they're at university level, such that it's even more difficult for them to find out as to how are they doing, unlike when maybe they are still doing their secondary education. So I just want to find out, how are you assisting the parents? Because I'm telling you, at tertiary level, they really need the parents. At times I'll tell the parents, it's okay to ask them, where is the report? Even at university level, how are you doing? How can I support you? But you find that their future at that level, most of the youth, it collapses. How are you assisting the parents? I've seen you are training the youth, mostly your focus is there. But don't you think maybe it's high time to also engage the parents on the new ways of parenting, maybe based on your research? Not only that, I've realized that you are using media, especially social media, and indeed, this is the time for it. It's we are in the digital space now, but are you aware that also the media, especially social media, can corrupt them at a tender age? I'm not sure in your programs, do you really have maybe thematic areas where you are ensuring that you assist them in terms of using the social media for their own benefit? Thank you.
More youthful than her. Yes. Oh, no, I don't like brackets. But thank you very much. I think this is great in terms of what the AU is doing. There are a couple of things I wanted you to speak to. One is around out of school youth. Is there anything that is happening, an initiative that targets those young people that are out of school for various reasons? That would be one. But also those who are not graduates, because there could be youth who are either technical level youth, they've gone through a technical institute, they are diploma or certificate holders or something like that. Because I feel like if we only target graduates, then we may end up sort of making this a very elite program. So I don't know if there is any work going on to look at those other levels of young people. But even having asked that, I'm not sure if there is an internship program that is just targeting those who are in school, who can go in and go back to school, so they don't have to have finished their degrees. So that's another thing. Of course, it's good to hear about the mentoring program, and I think it would be nice to sort of build. I don't know. I would love to hear. Probably, maybe it may not be here, to hear more about how you create that pool of what becomes mentors. Yeah, because in certain countries they intentionally look out for who, and then they sort of build a pool of people. So it may be helpful to do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Kwe Kuma Kwe. I'm really impressed that there's a unit that is intentional in involving youth and women. 1.2 billion is a huge number, and we should not leave them behind. And what I found really interesting is, firstly, your theory of change. That's how did you come about it? Maybe we need to consider that. And then what is coming out strongly to me is how cross-cutting the youth issue is, and it cannot be tied down to a department or a ministry. And what I would love to challenge my countrymen is that when we develop our national development plan, we should actually include such issues where we can actually see ourselves and how we can contribute towards these certain programs that are cross-cutting, and really intentionally work towards that, not in silo mentality, and eradicate the silo mentality. And then another aspect is, I just want to know, do you have a program for the arts, handicraft, and also for your mentoring program? Do you actually train the mentors? Because, sometimes the expectations can be huge or really cannot be met. So is that clear? Do you have a training program for the mentors, particularly on their expectations? Do you have terms of reference? How do you really work about that? Yeah, thank you.
Very difficult questions. So the very last one, which is whether we have training for the mentors. So I'll rope this question to what Richard also mentioned about pool of mentors. So the program originally is yet to take off. So the whole framework of the program is to call for mentors and mentees. Okay, so when we make the call, the call actually will gather the profile of all mentees. And so the fact that you apply to be a mentor doesn't mean that you will be picked. So we'll have call and pool of mentees. And then we have done a little bit of research with our partner, Trace, and we've, in fact, it's even roped into your arts question, where Trace is, like I said, explaining a multimedia organization that works in arts, entertainment, and all the various fields that are mostly overlooked, because arts, entertainment, mostly, we are not inclined towards that area. However, we are partnering with this organization, Trace, and then I think Audane Part 2 is also part of this this partnership. I mean, we've proposed it to them, and we are looking at ways to develop it to include a wide bracket of young people. So, first of all, there will be a call for mentors, where mentors will be profiled, and then there will be another a handbook. We're actually developing it, a handbook of how the whole program is going to be like, and then mentors will be taken through orientation, and the goals of this program will be clarified to them. Okay, the same way we are going to do for mentees. We are going to open it up. All young people with various skills, entrepreneurship, arts, crafting, whatever kind of skills, because it's going to be a pool of mentors. So after we have profiled these segments, either the mentors or mentees, then we match them up. So for instance, maybe you are into policy. Okay, I like policy issues, especially policies on young people. So my interest aligns with yours, and I may be engaging or doing something already at my community or national level, which I would like you to guide me or mentor me on ways to achieve my intended goals. So that is the whole idea about engaging or mentoring young people. And it's not going to be a face-to-face something. Everything is really going to be monitored online on our platform that we are developing with our partners. So everything will be agreed. And it doesn't also mean that whatever you discuss with your mentee, your mentor, someone will see it. No, nobody will see it. It's basically about you and your mentor. But at the back end, maybe administrators of the site or coordinators of the program will get to know what is going on between you and your mentee. You understand what I mean? So that is the aspect of how we engage or how we are going to broaden the scope and the pool of mentors. And then the other one too has to do with first of all, you have to understand that our work, I spoke about the theory of change so that you understand how we work. We work at a policy level. We don't really do hardcore implementation like Paul and his IDEC people do. We more like partner to scale. So as like countries are already doing or partners are already doing what they are doing, ours is to offer or partner them on perspective that we know will benefit young people. So let's say your country is organizing a policy dialogue with the young people. Lens and I spoke about scale of delivery. And then the other question has to do with the out of school program. So actually the AUYBC doesn't necessarily target people with let's say degrees. Of course, if you can have people have diplomas, people have high school diplomas, and they've been integrated into the system. So it's not like because you don't have a degree, you can't. Okay, so this is what happened. So when the call is made, young people are brought together from all over the country, the continent. Mostly countries love to host such events. I think a 2 weeks or 3 weeks event where we, together with partners, we reorient these young people. We train them with skills, design thinking, communication, all kinds of skills. Now, when we are done, then we make vacancies available for them to apply. So the vacancies, it depends on your qualification and the requirements for the vacancy, you can apply. So regardless of where, some organization even like technical people with technical skills, they just employ them they interview them, they understand their skills, what they can do, and then they rope them into their system and they start working. So that's what we do to engage young people. Now with the issue of social media is, okay, she's not seated, but social media is a blessing. A lot of things happen on social media. And we have been training, of course, partnering with other organizations to sensitize young people on how they can leverage on the opportunities that social media present to them, because a lot of things now is a digital world. And I can't personally, I've been away from home for a very long time. But because of social media, I know whatever happens in Ghana. I know whatever opportunities that are happening in my country. I know which company has a vacancy. I know which company is recruiting, doing mass recruitment. So as a young person, we always sensitize them to appreciate the opportunities that social media brings, and then capitalize on it to advance their career. There's so much opportunities that are run on social media, like digital skills you can learn from social media, a lot of skill development activities, that trainings that you can take advantage of. Programs targeting parenting. Honestly, I personally do not have answers to programs that target parenting, but maybe I've not been a parent before, so I can't speak to parenting. But of course, I'll throw the question back to you. Anyone who would want to speak to the issue of how parents can guide their kids or children to, to live a good life. Anyone? Because, of course, our program at the our programs involves everyone. So far as you're a young woman, so far as you are a woman too, not necessarily a young woman, so far as you're a young woman and a woman, you stand to benefit from the programs that we will run at the continental and regional or country level. So I'll throw the question back to you. Anyone who would want to? Okay.
Maybe let me answer from the AU. I don't. So that's a tough question, and it's making me think a wide, because we at the AU, I don't think we have, even at the AUD in all the organ, we don't have any specific program on parenting. Probably that would be a takeaway message from me to take back to management to look at that. What we have is a program on women, smallholder farmers who are women, SMEs who are women, and they are breadwinners for family. We have a whole program for that. So maybe that aspect of parenting can be infused in that program. But I've jotted it down. We don't have any program for parenting, and we must be honest. Probably at the REX level, we can look at some of the REX. Maybe some of the REX may have some program in there. But it's a critical issue, because if you look at the mindset of the youth and what is happening in terms of, I wouldn't want to mention too much the coup d'etats, because it's a different mindset. Our cultural values, how do we infuse? The youth is moving with supersonic speed. Sometimes it can be dangerous. So you need a bit of slowing down. Our cultural values also has to be embedded in them. And if we are looking at programming for parenting, we must look at it in that light. But it's well noted. Then thanks, Dr. Rejoice.
I'm not commenting on parenting, but something else. Yeah, because you mentioned TRES, your partnership with TRES, and because I work in the cultural space, I wanted to know if your department has a working relationship with the Department of Culture in the AU. And I say this because within that department there is a plan of action to support the culture and creative industries. And that department also has strong linkages with a free Exim Bank that is supporting the biggest cultural gathering for creatives, which is called CANEX. And this year it will be held in Egypt. And so many partners and young people, will be there. So it's an opportunity actually for your department to connect with the cultural department, because the AU is actually supporting this platform, so that the radio can begin meeting the artists there and recording. So I just wanted to know if you already know what's happening this side, and if not, I'm just suggesting that there should be that dotted line between the youth department and the cultural department. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. So also for me, I think it's just to, how to say, lunchbox scarf, we call it, just something we maybe that can be further discussed. That I saw your pillars, but I think it's now about crime and the youth involvement in criminal activities, delinquency. In my experience, I've seen that most youth, we focus on this entrepreneurship, and they're starting to know about those things, but they find themselves having criminal careers unknowingly, because nobody is embedding that. Maybe it cannot be a standalone, but it can be embedded in part of your programs in terms of awareness of the youth of crimes. Because when you ask them, some of them, they will say, we didn't even know it was a crime. You see, because, so maybe from continental level, we kind of embed that kind of awareness to our young people in terms of just as part of the program, so that they don't take into criminal careers, even when they are, most of them are in jails actually, and there are programs, but they're not enough that then will help to reintegrate. It will probably be corrections programs only, but not other programs that will help them now to reintegrate to be part of the society again, or even not into fall into those kind of careers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mine is small. I just want to suggest or emphasize on the 50-50 approach, like the gender parity. That maybe if when working towards maybe achieving that 50-50 gender parity, we need to ensure that we remove the barriers in equity. I think equity is more relevant than equality. Yes, equality, I agree, but I think I like the equity part, to ensure that everyone who qualifies get that opportunity. Not that you are saying let us have equal, that my concerns. Thank you.
So the fact that we are talking about parity, okay, doesn't mean that regardless of your qualification, that is why I spoke about tokenism or just representation. That is not the idea. The idea is give everyone equal opportunity, okay, equal opportunity. But as much as you give people equal opportunity, it has to be a balanced environment, in the sense that if you give 3 people, if you are giving 6 people opportunity, you can't give 5 to men and 1 to a woman, even though a lot of them qualify for such position. What we are trying to say, or what we seek to achieve, is that in every institution, at least, if you are recruiting or you are giving opportunity to young people or youth, as much as possible, have a balance, has a balanced room. Have a balanced representation in your organization. So not necessarily to say that, well, because we are talking about gender parity, then it means that regardless of your qualification or regardless of whether you qualify or not, you have to. Trust me, there are so many amazing women out there of issues, and their keen interest even in your growth as a man is amazing. And I would always, if I get a chance to work with, be at the highest level and get the opportunity to even recruit, I always would want to have that balanced thing in my organization, because women perspective to issues, regardless, is so different, and men perspective to issues. So that is what makes, that is what makes the whole environment and the whole space very safe for everyone. And even in terms of project execution and project implementation, it makes it very balanced, because the project has 2 eyes, looks at all the angles, everyone is targeted. But if you have unequal representation, it's always more like a bully. Okay, yeah. So that is what I can say. Of course, if the floor is still open for deliberation and contribution. And then with regards to the partnership, with the Trace and Exim Bank, we are still building our pool of partners. And I'm happy, I was really, really happy you brought this up, because we are looking at expanding our partner base. So, I just received even a mail in the morning about some of the things that we are building with regards to the AU Youth Radio and mentorship hub. So in fact, tomorrow we'll be having an engagement with trade. So we want to have a solid framework. Then after the solid framework, then we'll gather our partners and then present such program to them. And then we'll solicit their buy-in, and then we can take off with the project. So that is the aspect of it. So I would be much interested to take the details of the program from, that is, if you have a contact at SM Bank, we can work on roping them into this conversation. It's really, really important to me. And then with the aspect of, please can you repeat the question again? Sorry. Oh, okay, all right. Oh, with the gender thing, would you like to add something? With the gender parity thing.
Thank you so much. It was just a comment that we must take into consideration that we lose most of our careers because we didn't, how to say, make the necessary awareness to them. Yes, it's good to do all the other things, but let's also embed with the awareness that of how to make sure that they don't fall into criminal careers accidentally, because nobody's talking about these things. Yeah.
Maybe Richard small drum before the big drum. So as a small drum, I don't expect you to answer it, but one of the challenges we are having in my own country, there are some feminists who are arguing that this formulation, women and youth, is in itself problematic, because you take women and discuss their issues in a space of young people. And yet women are women. They are equal to men. They shouldn't be mixed with young people. So I don't know if that is a challenge that is popping up, because I know that some people are saying it is a formulation that looks like it may start disempowering instead of empowering, especially for women. But that I don't know if that tension plays out at all in some of the work that you do around, discussing issues where you have women and youth in the same space. Because some people feel, youth issues should be, because within the young people you have girls and boys, so let it be separate. And then for women's issues, if they have to be discussed, let them be discussed in their own right. Yeah, but as I said, I don't expect a full answer, but to say if it plays out at all.
No, I think, Richard, you are right. For us, and it cascades through the AU system at implementation level. For we, the question is not about the parity. It's not about numbers. Recently, I know the Rwandan parliament tout themselves of so many ministers who are women. For me, that's not where the problem is. The problem is at the grassroots. So for us, when we are talking about gender, it's about empowerment. You have smallholder farmers, 90% are women in the rural areas. How do we empower them to be more productive? So for us, the question of gender is more about economic rather than counting. And that is how we perceive it. And so, yes, in the Agenda 2063, the first 10-year plan, the indicators were poorly designed. So you see Rwanda scoring high because 50% of the MPs are women. And that blindfolds you of the actual critical issues that is happening at the bottom. And so for the second 10, we have actually deleted that indicator, where we say, let's start from the bottom and consider the gender issues as empowerment rather than counting. And that is where the equation should be tilted. Now, the issues of the youth, I agree, should be separated because the concerns are different. Because if you are talking about smallholder farmers, 90% being women, and in some countries they don't have the legal framework to even own a land. That is a problem. And those are the legal frameworks that we must address and solve to really resolve it economically. Now for the youth, and Joshua, thanks for doing this, but when our new CEO came in, he said, look, there are about almost 680 innovation hubs on the continent. The question we are asking ourselves is, what is coming out of those innovation hubs? So these guys go in, they get trained, 2 years, they come out, they get some small funding to start up. Within 3 years, they die off. So the death rate is really very high. So the question is, if you have 100 million as an AU organ or AUDA, do you spread that 100 million, 100,000 each for small SMEs, or you do critical analysis to identify firms that have potential for growth to create jobs and invest a lot of money? So this is more economic situation rather than every year we have this function, the youth come and then you inject 20,000, and within 1 year all of them die and they are all unemployed again. So we need to really provide some intelligence in the way we invest in small to medium enterprises. And there are discussions between your department and AUDA as to how we intelligently do that. Other than that, the moonshotting that we are talking about, the first moonshot, we aren't going to meet it. If we do business as usual, 100 million, we spread it across and nothing is coming out of the tunnel. So these are some few elements that I want to add to it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Joshua, let me commend you for a good presentation. I think that there's one point that I need to bring to your attention as a unit responsible for women and the youth. I don't know how your unit or the organization in particular will partner with political parties across the continent because Ghana, for instance, political parties have made it a point to waiver or to use a better word, reduce the filing fee for women to be able to take part in elections to become MPs in Ghana. Now, even with the waived filing fees, some women still find it difficult to be able to pay to take part in the election to be voted as MPs. And it's same for the youth, because for them, they've just come out of school, they are qualified to contest by age, but they do not have any resource. So I don't know how your unit is considering that, whether to further engage political parties across Africa to see how times, and even parliament, and see how possible they can still further find a better way to even pay for women and the youth who cannot even afford the reduced filing fee. Now, you also said that your organization advocates for 50-50, such that when you go to a certain workplace, you expect to see 3 men, 3 women. Now, you also said that in everything you do, you are targeting 35%. I want some clarification on that.
Thank you, Joshua. Mine will be on your directorate being a woman, gender, youth. I see a lot of program focused on the youth and not quite women, so that they are able to achieve the 50-50 parity. I may have missed this perhaps in the presentation, but it would seem you do not have so many programs focused on women, because the idea is that we have to equip these women so they are able to take up these leadership roles. And point in case, our presentations this week, I don't recall having a lady. It's a challenge to the AU. They've been moderators. They've from Eswatini, so I think it's a big ups to Eswatini. But it's also a challenge. In all the presentations, I don't recall a woman presenting. Thank you.
This is not a question. I think it's just a comment on the comment Richard gave concerning the issue about women wanting to be treated as women and not to be treated together as youth because they are two different groups. Don't we think that it is because these two groups also share some similarities? I mean, if you look at the groups that are actually marginalized in society, it's because the youth and the women are marginalized. And so sometimes these discussions are in the context of marginalization and exclusion and not necessarily on gender specific. It's Joshua, it's not to you. It's just an idea that is floating around. I want to add my voice to it. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Paul, for your contribution. So I'll start from the political bit of the question. First of all, AU is apolitical. We don't necessarily target a particular. For what I know, we don't necessarily because I've been in a conversation like that, and where there was or is this CSO that actually support women parliamentarians in their respective countries, and the conversation was about how we can support such initiative, and their understanding was that of course I will always seek guidance from Dr. Nimako. However, I'm saying that we are apolitical and we don't necessarily speak to specific political interventions. However, we make the platform and spaces very safe for everyone. So for instance, if we are running a program on women and youth, financial and economic inclusion, we expect it's not necessarily targeted to a political party or a political initiative. It is an initiative that is targeting all young women or women in general. So it is to scale so that this initiative gets to you to benefit or partake in such initiative for your growth and development. So that is what I can say about that. And then the other program, we have a lot of programs for, our program are gender and youth mainstreaming programs. So it's cross-cutting program. It's not necessarily to say that of course we have specific gender or women programs. Let me see if I can just mention one here. We have I think the Wi-Fi program is basically about unlocking potentials for young women. Wi-Fi project is basically targeted at, like Dr. Nimako said, how we can unlock economic potential for women in Africa. So we have a lot of programs that actually speak to young women across the continent. And then about the 50-50 representation, what that I was trying to say is that, has been widely explained, we are looking at targeting, 35% of young people, all right, 35% of young people. However, we are also looking at having a gender parity. So, for instance, let me say if we are all equal, all right, let's say equal men and equal in terms of number, 35% of these people should be young people. That is all that we are trying to say. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Let's give Joshua a round of applause. You can see that our youth is very much involved and engaged. Okay, we have learned a lot the past 3 days, and all that we have learned has to be translated into action and implemented. So we're going to have Dr. Nimako coming forward to give us ways of how we can move forward past this workshop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dudu. Dr. Rejoice, if it is permissible, whilst I make this statement, I can also give my closing statement after the next steps, so that when the Undersecretary comes in, we can save a bit of time, because some of the discussion can follow after this engagement, if that's okay with you. Yeah. So the Undersecretary of the Ministry of ICT, I will, on behalf of you, I want to thank all the participants for. Actually, I've learned more than. Well, I was not in part of the Cameroon, but I don't want to compare. But I have learned more in this training workshop. So it's more bi-directional, not just us giving, but learning from the Eswatini experience. This is actually a start. I'll consider it a start of the implementation of the agenda, second 10-year plan process. Because we know the first decade we finished, but this can be considered as a start of that process. With that in mind, we hope that this training has provided us with a space for us to start engage a highlight of the things that we want to do in terms of using both data and citizen engagement for our policy making processes. A lot of use cases has come out of this event. A lot of experience sharing from both IDEC and the Commission, and also from AUD and NEPAD. What we are doing is actually not new, and from the experience that we have shared, it is evident that Eswatini has been engaging citizens in policy-making processes. The question is, how do we do it in a structured manner so that we can learn from country to country, not to have one tool, but customized tool that is shareable across country, and that is the whole purpose of this. One other thing that I want to highlight that came out of the meeting is the workshop is that it's not all about technology. First of all, you need to get the methods right because the contexts are different. The platform will only help you enhance what you have outlined in your methodology. So we need to actually also leverage on the non-technology platform, like town hall meetings. I think there was a word that was used. I think the colleague from the Ministry of Economic Planning actually gave some examples of that, and we need to leverage on those non-technology platform. The idea is that citizens want to be heard. They want their voice heard in all corners. And how we structurally engage with them becomes quite important going forward. As a way forward, we have outlined a few points that we want to share in the plenary, and some of these points can actually will actually be followed up with the Ministry of ICT. The first is that we will want to have a follow-up targeted training for selected focal colleagues in the Ministry of ICT, and this we do with all the countries after the in-country engagement. The reason being that this workshop is more highlights, and so we will need dedicated training for selected colleagues in the Ministry of ICT on how to carry some of the methods that we have been trained in this workshop. The second item is that we will want to create a space on the platform that was demonstrated just for Eswatini, and that will require a focal person, and so that discussion will be ongoing with the Ministry of ICT as the focus institution or focus ministry for this program. We intend that in the long future we want to transfer the platform to the data center that was set some years ago, so that it will be localized within the space. The third item is that the use cases that we discussed yesterday, we need to consolidate the use cases and particularly use those that we can have low-hanging fruit as results to show. And so we will work with the ministry to consolidate and refine the use cases that came up in yesterday's discussions going forward. The third element which is important is communication. I think we will need some press release and communicate. Particularly, this is important because we need to engage with the various sectorial ministries that are here in a structured view as to how we carry the program forward. The fifth item that we do have has to do with, Dr. Rejoice, what you requested about science communication. That may fall outside of this program, so we will want to have bilateral with you and your team as to how we carry that into the future. Media communication is important. How do we train our journalists as to how to communicate properly? So these are some of the few elements. I know there are more, but few elements from our side as way forward in terms of actioning some of the discussion points that we did discuss in the meeting. On behalf of our CEO and the Director of Agriculture, Food Systems and Environmental Sustainability, I want to express my profound gratitude, as always, to the government of Eswatini for allowing us the space to always implement our programs and projects within the kingdom. So thank you very much. I want to mention some few names. Under Secretary, we do thank you very much for gracing the occasion, both at the beginning, and I'm sure some feedback has been reported to you as to how the meeting went. Dr. Rejoice, we do want to appreciate your commitment to the processes. Luandle, if I don't mention your name, it doesn't mean that I don't like you. I like all of you, Dr. Gugu. And thank you, Richard, for always bringing your enormous experience to the fore and to always teach us the right way to go based on your experience. We want to thank also IDEC for gracing the occasion and also sharing your experience today. The Commission, we want to also thank you. I don't know the full name of the Agency for the Culture, but I do know you are here, so we do also want to express our profound gratitude. And to all of you for staying active throughout the entire training session and asking critical questions. Actually, I listed a bunch of them that we don't have answers to. and probably through the AU programs, we can provide some answers and help countries to strengthen ourselves, particularly for the implementation of the second decade of Agenda 2063. For those that will be traveling, I wish all of you travel mercies. And since we are ending by lunch, take time to spend your little money you've gotten in Eswatini. Blow it all up. Blow it all up. Don't go, particularly for the delegate, don't go back with your kwacha or your runs. Blow it all up this evening and explore as well. It's a beautiful country, I must attest. And I'm going to blow it up. So join me. If you want to join me, join me. But we do want to thank the government for allowing us this space. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gideon. Yes, there is still more work to be done. It's only the beginning. But because of time, I won't be long. My job is easy. We know in our African proverb, if there is no gratitude in your vocab, then know very well that you are destined for failure. It's only a matter of time. So that is why in our country we believe for us to succeed in implementing what we have started today, there is a need for us to say thank you. Not just say thank you at my level, but we are saying our acting PS, our under secretary, Magemota, is going to express our gratitude on behalf of the ministry, on behalf of our government. Over to you, Magemota.
Can I start by asking that we stand up and give a big round of applause to the older NEPAD team. Older NEPAD, Head of Delegation, Dr. G, Captains of Industry, senior government officials present here with us, media houses, especially our Eswatini television, all protocol observed. A very good afternoon. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate you for being here and actively participating or taking part in this highly informative workshop on DataCipation. Pronouncing it right? Yes. And citizen engagement. Today is the last day of the workshop and the beginning of the work on the ground. The importance of citizen engagement and data being the new oil has come out clear and strongly during the workshop, and how the latter holds promise to responsive decision making. Furthermore, the use of data for development is imperative and brings about high level of specificity in the development of programs. We have learned about the African Union Agenda 2063 and the lessons learned from the first phase. We owe it to ourselves to inculcate this agenda into our development plans to ensure that the Africa we want comes to fruition. We are in the digital age, and the African Union has introduced an online digital tool to propel the citizen engagement. I'm looking forward to the Kingdom of Eswatini flying its flag on the platform. As we conclude this meeting, I would like to invite you all to continue this conversation and collaboration on citizen engagement. Let us share our good practices, lessons learned, challenges faced, and opportunities seized in engaging citizens in our work. Let us also seek feedback from the citizens themselves and listen to their needs, their preferences, their aspirations, and their concerns. Let us keep in mind that citizen engagement is not only about what we do, but also about how we do it and why we do it. I'd like to thank Ouda Nepad for being an exceptional development partner. I'm at a loss of words at the determination to always put the kingdom of Eswatini on the map. We are working towards strengthening the national system of innovation. And worth mentioning is how Ouda Nepad is steering us in the right direction. I can assure you, Dr. Chi and your team, we will become one of the success stories. Thank you to the presenters, the organizing team. A special thank you to Eswatini TV, who rose to the occasion and we now have a digital footprint on this auspicious workshop. In the words of Helen Keller, alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. G, we should go and blow that money. Let's do that.
No, siyabonga kakhulu. Traveling message to all those who are traveling out of Eswatini. And yeah, the shops are waiting for us. Let's go blow that money. Siyabonga kakhulu.